Hi, I'm the Paleo PT, and I was asked to review a pair of Xero Shoes sandals that I recently bought, so here it goes. So I opted to buy the Xero Shoes FeelTrue DIY sandal making kit with the option of a 6mm sole. It also comes in 4mm. The 6mm is what Xero Shoes calls their contact sole. So far I'm very happy with the purchase. For those unfamiliar with this type of sandal kit, it consists of a sole, 12 feet of laces that come in two 6-foot lengths, and a hole punch. The sole is made of dense rubber and has much the same feel in terms of density and tackiness as what you would find on a pair of high-end hiking boots featuring Vibram soles. The sole comes in a variety of sizes. They're pre-cut more or less to the shape of a human foot, and each sole features two tabs on either side of the ankle that has a pre-cut hole that allows the laces to pass through. The idea of the tabs is that when the laces are under tension, it pulls the tabs up away from the ground and minimizes wear on the laces. So that's kind of a nice feature. The DIY aspect of this kit comes from the fact that you need to punch a hole or holes for the laces, part of the laces that hold the forefoot of the sandal to your own forefoot. And also cutting down the sole to more precisely conform to your foot. The fact that it can be cut down definitely makes it recommendable to get a bigger size rather than a smaller size. Always err on the side of a bigger size, especially if you want to try to do something like this where the lace passes over the foot instead of in between the toes. I opted for a big size because I have relatively wide forefeet, especially compared to my heels, so I definitely wanted an extra size to try out this lacing pattern. At the time of this video, there's actually no difference in cost between a sole that will accommodate a foot up to 8.5 inches or 21.4 centimeters and one that accommodates up to 12.75 inch or 32.2 centimeter long foot. Because of this, the cost won't really be an issue in choosing a sole size for most adults. The cost is actually less if you opt for a smaller size. Sizes below 8.5 inches are cheaper. I don't recall how much right off the bat here. In terms of performance, the 6mm thickness of the sole offers pretty good resistance to stone bruises. So I definitely wanted that since I live in a pretty rocky region and do a lot of hiking off trail. And it's also likely to be more resistant to puncture than the typical running shoe, just because the actual thickness of the actual rubber part is going to be, well, thicker than the rubber part of a typical running shoe. The rest of the running shoe, of course, would be taken. The sole would be taken up or made out of padding, probably EVA foam or something like that just doesn't have a lot of puncture resistance. The tread is not as aggressive as most hiking boots. They're actually used, so yeah, they're dirty. I don't know if you can really see that trying to, it's not as aggressive, like I said, not as aggressive as most hiking boots or even a lot of trail runners, but it's easily aggressive enough to handle pavement and the typical trail. Also, the fact that they flex so much means that you get probably more surface area in contact with any given surface, more surface area of the sole in contact with any given surface you're trying to get traction on, and there'll be more friction and more traction for that reason. On the top side, it's also textured in a way that provides some more traction between the wearer's foot and the surface of the sole. You can see the contrast here around the Xero Shoes symbol. It's relatively smooth, not completely smooth, but relatively smooth. And here where the sole of the foot makes contact with the footbed, it's a small checkered pattern. Seems to be pretty good for providing traction, but I have not had a problem with blisters or hot spots because of it, so it's probably a pretty good surface with respect to that. I guess I should mention I'm not real prone to blisters or hot spots anyway, but it's probably about as good as you can do for this kind of material as far as having a surface to contact the foot with. As for negatives, I always try to look for negatives whenever I'm being critical of any product. There are negatives, but I think they're actually fairly minimal. My first criticism comes from my experience with older sandals with this made out of a similar material. I found that these holes around the ankles tend to wear through and the laces pop out. It's fairly easy to fix because you just use the hole punch to punch a new hole either, well, adjacent to the hole that tore out. I'm a little concerned that there's not really room on these tabs for additional holes, but I figure that I can just punch them in the adjacent sole anyway, and might not have the benefit of the tab, but that would just end up being more like an old school sandal. I'm always trying to look for ways of getting as much life out of these as possible, since in my experience the actual sole will last a lot longer than the holes. I'm kind of anticipating that here too, and if one of these tears out and I can't find a satisfactory place to run the laces like this, I'll just punch a hole in between the toes and use a more traditional lacing pattern and probably trim off the excess rubber. Anyway, so that is a concern. I guess it might be a little bit too strong to call it a criticism, but it is a concern. My other criticism comes from just the way Xero Shoes does the laces. When you go to purchase these, you have to select a lace color, and when you do that, it automatically adds to the cost of the order. It won't let you complete the order without doing it, so you're stuck paying that price anyway, but it shows you exactly how much is added on by the lacing, which is a bit annoying. At least when I bought these, it was about $2.50 US dollars that it added on, which isn't, of course, it isn't terrible, but I found that paracord is more cost effective, both in terms of the value you get per foot, but also because being able to buy it in 50-foot lengths means that you have more flexibility in terms of the length of the laces you cut. These, as I said, it came in 2 6-foot lengths. I find that 6 feet is way more than I need. That's a lot of extra lace to do something with. 3 feet is less than I'd like. These were cut down. I cut these down to 3 feet, so I would have 4 3-foot lengths, and the 3-foot lengths provide some room to spare, but not as much as I'd like. The idea is that as the knots wear out, which they eventually do, you just pull more of the lace through, tie off a new knot, and then you're left with that. Your excess gets shorter. I like to have plenty of excess in order to delay the time until I have to relace them completely, and it also makes them pretty reliable in terms of having extra for field repairs. Just with a 3-foot length, I'm probably going to have to carry spare laces a little bit sooner than I'd like to, or replace them entirely sooner than I'd like to. So that's just a little gripe I have there. With my foot size and the way I'd like to lace these, I'd really rather have more like a 4-foot length, which would have been easier to do if it had been sold in a 12-foot lace that was continuous, 12 continuous feet instead of 2 6-foot lengths, or if I'd just been allowed to skip the laces and buy and just go with paracord. Having said that, the laces themselves I think are superior to paracord. They're flatter. It's a little bit looser of a weave, which it holds knots well, probably at least as well as paracord. Treats my skin pretty well. There was a bit of getting used to it since I'm not used to having pressure points here after having had a toe, the knot in between the toes, but that was pretty understandable to have that kind of break-in period. So despite these criticisms, I feel that the Xero Shoes FeelTrue DIY sandal making kit is a solid product. I think it's a good value, and it does a good job of protecting your feet while mostly staying out of the way. So that concludes my review. I should say that I am an affiliate with Xero Shoes, and if you click the link that I'm going to provide in the description at the end of this video, and then make a purchase, I earn a small commission. It doesn't cost you any more than it would not to use my affiliate link, and making a purchase through the affiliate link will help me to bring more content to encourage people to get out and play in the woods. So I would definitely appreciate the support that you could give me if you opt to buy a pair of these or anything else from Xero Shoes on xeroshoes.com. Thank you for listening and watching, and sorry the video's gone a little bit long, but I hope you got some good information and help you to make an informed decision about whether or not to buy these. Take care, and I hope to bring you more content soon.